It's a bad day, Alex. We have to care about all the bad things happening in the world because the Dow is under 50,000 as we're recording it.
Oh, no.
When it was above, no cares in the world.
Oh.
Below, we got to talk about it.
Crime's real again?
Crime is real again.
When it's over 50, no crime. That's the rules.
Yeah.
That's where the Attorney General of the United States said that, Phil. She sat in front of a room and they were like, hey, we feel like you're part of the biggest cover-up in the history of the United States federal government. And she's like, why are we talking about this?
You know what's so great? Is it wasn't like an off-the-cuff thing. It was like, you know what? I got him with this one.
She had a binder.
I got him with this one. Yeah, I got a binder full of quick zips and zaps.
Can I tell you?
God.
To go from Mitt Romney, I have binders full of women, to having a woman with a binder full of deflections for sex crimes is crazy. This is the craziest. It was an instant meme too. That's the part that was wild. She backed into an incredible meme. The Dow is over 50K. I saw so many different ones. A bunch of Dragon Ball Z memes, the over 9,000, but it's like over 50,000. Piccolo, no! Like, it's just so instant. What a fucking clown. I just can't get over the fact that Pam Bondi was the second choice for Attorney General. Could you imagine if Matt Gaetz, the original choice, the one who had to leave Congress because of, the interstate trafficking of minors, that guy, if he was the Attorney General right now, could you imagine the binder they would have handed him?
This is why I think it's very important as a person, but maybe even more specifically as a couple, right? We're coming out of Valentine's Day weekend. I think it is very important as a couple to have one couple friend that is it is a shit show, because you seem golden after you hang out. You just seem like the best person in the world. You have to have just a car crash of a human being or relationship so that your wife goes, oh my God, I'm blessed. I thought we were having a rough week. We're great. Our two is there 25.
Yes, 100%. You're talking about like the ugly wingman type of idea where you just have somebody on the side so you look better instantly. I got a bunch of those friends. They're all great.
If you don't have that, you might be that.
Yeah, if you don't have that, then you don't have friends. Because in reality, like, we all have a thing. We all have a thing where, like, listen, Phil has his thirst traps, right? That's what Phil has. He has his 8-pack abs. Okay, I'm over here and I have just an incredible hairline. Like, this is how I know that this is what we compare each other on all day.
I've been in this for 20 years. I've been doing this job for 20 years. And for 15 of them, I thought, wouldn't it be great if someone could like me, not for the words coming out of my face, not for the content of my character, but just because of the way I look. Yeah. And so I've put in a lot
Yeah.
so people could like me for something very superficial.
And I want to tell you, it shows, okay? You've been looksmaxing. You looksmaxed long before everybody else. Right now, all the kids are looksmaxing. They're all mogging. They're all jester gooning. I just want to say, you've been the king. You're king gooner, if anything, I think is the best way to put it.
God.
Am I saying it right? I don't know. I'm 41.
No, but
I go outside.
Also you might have accidentally been correct. Who knows? You'll never know.
Have been. But no, we'll probably, for some reason, everyone has to talk about Clavicular. We'll get to him later.
Contractually, we all have to.
Yeah, I think we do, right? Because I think Peter Thiel showed up in everyone's inboxes and said, you will talk about the catamite that I have been slowly funding from behind. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that.
And we're not even taking money. We just don't want Peter Thiel to bring the end of days this year.
No, I don't.
It's to push it off.
Yeah, well, let's get back. Speaking of Peter Thiel and the Epstein Files, this is what we're opening on, because this has been the part that's crazy. I think Pam Bondi did such a bad job on Wednesday trying to distract from the Epstein Files that the impossible happened, and Donald Trump basically shut up for 4 days. He has basically been in hiding. Yeah, he's truthed or tweeted or whatever. He's had people in his orbit say dumb things. But like comparatively to what the first 6 weeks of this year have been, it was honestly kind of like relatively quiet for a Trump White House. For this weekend, that's the part that's so weird. Yeah,
and it got so quiet that it allowed people on the left to just start fighting each other.
Oh yeah, 100%. It was amazing.
And it was like, but the thing is, like, the problem is, I mean, I think I'm not built for the current version of the internet, because I'm like, hey, guys, let's have a conversation or let's have a disagreement. And then everyone, well, not everyone. A lot of people just take it to a 10, no matter what.
Yeah.
It's like you're challenging a worldview or opinion. And I'm going like, I don't know if that's the right thing. And they're like, you're attacking me and you're calling me a fucking idiot. And I'm like, what?
Well, it's because the algorithms. It's because it's 100% how the algorithms are being built right now, right? So like if the right is in retreat, then the algorithm goes, oh, you don't have enough rage that's keeping you interacted on our platform. Oh, since you don't have enough rage, then don't worry. We have people on your own side that you also don't agree with. You 1% of the time you two disagree. So here's that 1%. It's all we're going to show you, which is why I have a question, which is a question I have directly for California Governor Gavin Newsom, which is if J.D. Vance is the if J.D. Vance is the presidential nominee in 2028, would Gavin Newsom vote for Hasan Piker? I want to know. I think inquiring minds want to know. Gavin
Would
Newsom,
you?
who next person,
Ooh.
listen, the next time a right-wing pundit sits down with Gavin Newsom on Gavin Newsom's own podcast, they should ask Gavin Newsom, would you vote for Hasan Piker? I think that is the direction we need to take this, because it was just stupid. It's just been a stupid thing all weekend. It was a hypothetical question asked on a podcast that was then clipped and then spread around everywhere to enrage people. Like, Hasan didn't clip it. I've Had It podcast didn't clip it. It was a third party of people who don't like either of them who clipped it to then go, fuck you to everybody else, to then make everybody get enraged at each other so then everyone could have content to talk about. And then it gets thrown over into the streamerverse. And then all the streamers then clip it. And then they all have something to talk about. This way, nobody has to talk about what's actually happening in the world, which is that we are being run by a cabal of elite pedophiles who all just emailed crimes to each other all day. That got boring. So we had to instead come up with an idea of talking about 2028 candidates before anyone has declared they're actually running for anything. Before we even get to the 2026 midterms, which we don't even know if we're going to actually have in a way that anyone trusts. And so it's just, it feels stupid. It feels insane. And that's
I'm with you 90%. I'm with you 90%.
Oh, well, then fuck you, Phil. Fuck you. If you can't be with me 100%, then I don't want to do this show anymore, all right? That's how this is. We're either 100% in fucking full agreement, or you can suck my... All right, I don't want to lose a sponsor.
No, but it is. I'm with you 90% that it is very much a distraction. But I also think there's 10% of my mind that thinks it is good for these disagreements to have happen as far away from the fucking election as possible, because it's not like this discourse didn't affect the last election cycle for president. And that one was on it was so sped up because all of a sudden, you had Joe Biden dropping out and Kamala Harris there. And so I think that there is a positive here, but you want to say something?
Well, I want to say that it felt that the last election discourse happened very similar to the same way this is happening in a very similar way. And I guess I want to point back to the way the algorithms work on these different things, because again, this has become on the left. This became a flashpoint thing where everybody was arguing about it, to the point where if you talked about anything else, people thought you were talking about that. And then on the right looks like the right isn't even seeing it. Like, that's the part that's kind of crazy. Unless somebody drags it over there, that algorithm isn't showing it as much right now. And like there was an image you posted from was it New York Magazine or New Yorker?
The New Yorker. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago. And it was an image, and we'll put it up on the screen for anybody who's watching us on YouTube or Spotify. If you're listening to us, thank you. Give us 5 stars on Apple Pod or wherever you listen to us. And then get down in the comments and make sure you like and subscribe. Anyway, when that image up there with such... I commented on it because it was such a grass is greener image.
Hasan also commented on it.
I know.
Like, let's see.
I know. Well, and I thought it was very funny because the thing is like... Is there infighting on the left? Yes, there's infighting on the left, but there's also infighting on the right. That's the thing nobody wants to admit. Yeah, and we don't see it as much. Like, sometimes you do if you're very, very, very teed and clued into it. But like,
and if you watch the Philip DeFranco show, because we talk about it a lot.
If you watch the Philip DeFranco show, or if you know who Candace Owens is, like, that's another thing. Like, we're gonna pretend that the right doesn't have infighting when we live in a world where Candace Owens is beefing with everybody. We're gonna pretend that the right isn't infighting when we watch every other week a different Republican congressman drop out. We're gonna pretend that the right isn't infighting when Marjorie Trader Brown exists. Like, we're gonna pretend the right isn't infighting when they just had an arena bowl where all they did was get up and infight the entire fucking time. We're going to pretend the right isn't infighting when Elon Musk is quote tweeting Steve Bannon every single day, calling him a pedophile, while Steve Bannon is trying to hide emails that prove that the entire Steve Bannon cinematic podcasting universe was the brainchild of Jeffrey Epstein. Like, we're gonna, by the way, which is insane. I just want to point that out, that Jack Posobiec has a job because Jeffrey Epstein imagined it. This is where we are right now, and it drives me nuts because it's very grass is greener. Does that make sense? Like, oh, look, the right's always in lockstep. The right's always in lockstep. I'm like, do you guys not remember Steven Crowder fighting with the Daily Wire? Do you guys not remember? Like, and I just start going down all the list of things. But I mean, again, I search for that stuff. I look for that, so my algorithm feeds it to me because I'm always trying to figure out what the other side is even fucking talking about. Versus a lot of people are just sitting there and being like, oh, if you like this, you might like this. And it's just still serving you your own side.
And I think I will say from the Hasan stuff, I think that there are more nuanced points of it that were brought up. Because I think, if you look at the broader context, he talks about like the things that Newsom could do to earn his vote. I think a big part of Hasan's argument is like we need to not just like sit down, eat shit, and then move on. And so I get that. For me, I'm still at the end of the day thinking of end goal. But like he was talking about with Newsom, he was like he needs to change his homelessness policy. He needs to actually fight Republicans on corruption. And so like there are certain areas where it's like I'm connected because you constantly hear me just go like one of my main issues with Newsom is the fact that he is two different people. He is who he is on social media, and then he is who he is on his fucking podcast, where he's like, actually, crazy Republican person, you make some great points, and I'm not going to contest 80% of them.
And let me tell you something right now. I mean, I don't believe that Gavin Newsom can become president because he is a far left governor. That's the reason why. And that's going to drive people insane. Yeah, because if you look at a map, where is California? It's on the left of the map. That's far left. That's how medium voters
really
think.
Interesting.
That's how medium voters think. Like legit.
Because there's gonna be people that are saying that it's more of like his commentary on trans issues in the past.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, real fast, Phil. I just told a great joke. I just told a really great joke about when you look at a map, the far left, and you're like, okay, interesting, blah, 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 but other people wouldn't view him as far. I was like, no, this is a joke about
part
medium
of
voters.
This dynamic is you say stuff and it goes over my head.
I know, but I need to make sure in this particular thing that you understand it's a joke, and then now I need to make it clear to the rest of the audience because I can already see it getting clipped to all fucking
Here's
hell.
a map right here.
Yeah, look at the map. We put a map up. We circled it. That's why we need a far-right candidate like AOC. Look where New York is, okay? Circle where New York is. It's on the right of the map. Like, this is where the idea is.
That stands since so many of those fucking right-wingers constantly love showing that picture. They're like, how does any Democrat win? And it's just like
empty
red
land.
America because land apparently votes.
Yeah. No, but I mean, but the thing is like, I keep thinking back. A lot of people keep pointing to the 2024 election, and they keep talking about all the different issues and everything else. But we don't come down to the fact that people are, if we truly live in a democracy, if we truly live in a representative democratic republic, then the votes that actually matter are coming from people, and people themselves are actually fucking stupid, and we don't know where any of their beliefs come from. Like, there's just a report came out that 12% of people believe that Noah from Noah's Ark was married to Joan of Arc. Like, okay, people are dumb, but I think a lot back to post 2024 election, Don Lemon went around and he interviewed people on the street, and he talked to especially young men because he heard about the shift in young men. He was talking to young men on some college campus. I remember him talking to this one guy, and he was like, where do you get your news from? And the guy goes, I get it from unbiased sources. And he said, what are those unbiased sources? And Phil, they didn't say your name. You know what they said? Steven Crowder and Tim Pool. He said those were unbiased sources. And people don't even understand when they're being worked. People don't and also, I
got some extended family like this. Yeah.
But there's a difference though. Like you and me, and then other people inside the commentary space, and other people who stare at news all day or stare at politics all day. This is like our big obsession. This is our big thing, right? Other people, like the same way if you look at sports, right? Imagine if you have sports, like if we were super into football and we were heavy into stats and we're talking all day about different coaches, all this other different stuff. And then we turn to somebody sitting on the couch next to us and we go, which team do you like? And they go, the Horsies. Like this is where we end up a lot of times at election day. And we're sitting here now, we're fighting over all these micro things where at the end of the day, it's like, it's going to come down to the last YouTube short some of these people see, on these certain times. And like, I think the primaries are already so far out. Yes, we can have these fights. Yes, we can figure out what these things are, and we should have these discussions and arguments. But like, those discussions and arguments to me are also still so far out, because when it comes down to I don't even know where Georgia is on the list of primaries, but I'm in Pennsylvania. We're a late primary. I've rarely ever gotten to choose who the Democratic nominee is because I'm so late in it. We're like in May. By the time that happens, like all the lunatics are gone. Like back in 2008, like I know, listen, I voted for Obama, but I was a Mike Gravel guy. I liked Mike Gravel. He didn't have a shot. But I loved watching him up there. You know what I mean? Like,
that's not a name I've heard in a while.
Listen, it's not a name most people hear. But there are these candidates out there who are outliers who, like, you have to then count on people in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina to care about. And these are states that typically I don't even think about at all. And so we're over here arguing over all these different things. It's really, we have to go through this sieve of a filter of all these states that aren't on the East or West Coast, that streamers and major cities aren't in, and that we have to get to until eventually we get to that general election. And it just sucks in that sort of way. And so I think the biggest thing to me is everyone's screaming at each other about a fucking hypothetical question. And I think it's stupid. That's where I'm at.
So who you voting for? You voting for Hasan or JD?
Oh no, I'm gonna. Listen, I will anything to stop JD Vance. Anything to stop JD Vance. If JD Vance is even the nominee, that's the thing. Is I don't even think JD Vance. If there's one path. There's one path to JD Vance becoming the Republican presidential nominee in 2028, and it's I don't want to.
Marco Rubio falls off a cliff.
No. He would have to already
Trump.
be president.
Oh, okay.
That's literally the only way, because there's no. I think he would lose all steam as VP. But in reality, JD Vance is the Peter Thiel candidate, and I believe that. And at this point in time, America is being completely held down by a series of South African lunatic billionaires who are trying to divide this country via algorithms and insanity. And anything that we can to push back on that. And any presidential candidate that at least can recognize that and can really start to recognize this level of systems is a step in the right direction. Beyond that, then we can get in the nitty gritty.
Sorry, best I can do is a psychopath that makes jokes about knee pads.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, best you can do is a guy who definitely looks like one of the demons from Buffy the Vampire Slayer before he turns from human back to demon form. Listen, can I tell you what's actually crazy? What's actually wild is in this whole thing is I met the three of you at the same time. I met like you, Hasan, and Gavin Newsom within 10 feet of each other, because at the 2024 DNC in the Creator Lounge with their bad Chicago hot dogs, that's where like Gavin Newsom walked by, and I was standing outside. I was like, oh, he's tall. Why does it smell like sulfur? And then I walked through the curtain, and then I saw you, and I was talking to you, and then I turned and I saw Hasan, and then I was like, oh, and then I turned around, and then there was Jennifer Welch. Like, we were all right there. It was like that famous thing when they talk about like the Austrian cafes in like the 1920s, or to be in the 1900s. It's like, oh, right over there was Trotsky, and right over there was Hitler. You're like, oh my God. So yeah, it's funny.
My inbox sees everything. Receipts, logins, late night purchases I pretend didn't happen. And at some point I realized, why does my email provider get a front row seat to my entire life? That's one of the many thoughts that pushed me to switch to today's sponsor, Proton Mail. Proton Mail is a free email service built around privacy and security, not ads, not tracking, not mining your data. Unlike traditional platforms, Proton doesn't scan your messages or build creepy profiles based on what you say. Everything is end-to-end encrypted by default, meaning your emails stay private, even from Proton themselves. And thankfully, it doesn't feel like some clunky security tool. The inbox is fast, clean, and genuinely easy to use. You get smart organization, powerful search, and built-in protection against trackers and phishing attempts, which basically means fewer sketchy surprises and less inbox chaos overall. And here's a bonus: switching is painless. You just import your old emails or start fresh with a new address. Totally up to you. I personally love knowing that when I send something sensitive or private, it actually stays that way. Did I mention that Proton is free free to use? Just go to proton.me/crash or scan the QR code and get started today. That's proton.me/crash.
Okay, so I mean, coming back, we're talking about voting. This is connected to that. We need to talk about the House. They passed the Save America Act, 218 to 213. It was across party lines. It happened on February 11th. So I know that a billion other things have happened, but it's very important. It's also not done because it's one of the big situations in the Senate. But it would require documentary proof of citizenship, passport or birth certificate to register to vote, and photo ID to vote. There was only one Democrat who voted yes. It was Henry Cuellar, who, am I correct, didn't he get a pardon from Trump?
Is that the same guy?
I gotta look. Yeah, it is.
It is the same guy. Okay, so
Isn't
the guy
that crazy?
Which is crazy because that guy voted against something that Trump did, and then Trump made a big deal. It's like, why would you? I gave you a pardon, and I gave you a pardon, and then you voted against me. Fuck you. That's insane. That's so.
But
wild.
also, it's not through the Senate, and then in the Senate, right? You have Lisa Murkowski. She opposes it. She says, it's the same federalizing elections that Republicans opposed when Democrats tried it in 2021. And also you got Trump saying that even with or without Congress, he's going to enforce voter ID. There's a lot of moving.
So there's a lot with this one. Number one, the number one thing I've seen a lot has been Elon has been pushing, but specifically a big part is on this, ironically, has been all of them saying that we need to get rid of the filibuster. Because the reason it won't pass the Senate is they have 50 votes. They do not have 60 to get it through a filibuster-proof majority to be able to actually get it to a full vote. And so there's a lot of people saying we don't need to worry about this, the SAVE Act in particular, because it looks like it's dead on arrival in the Senate, because it's very similar to things like in 2021 where they had the Democrats were trying to pass of rules that were like ban gerrymandering and have the John Lewis Civil Rights Voting Act and all this other different type of stuff. There's a bunch of different acts that they wanted to push in the Biden era that was held up specifically by Joe Manchin and Sinema because they refused to get rid of the filibuster. And now it looks like the filibuster is the thing that's going to stop the SAVE Act on this side. The one thing I will say, though, is it should still be noted by everybody because this now has shown how far we've gone in the conversation. A big thing for me has been the push in this that a driver's license is not acceptable as ID anymore. And now the push that you have to prove citizenship for registration. And the thing is like the reason why this is crazy is because we don't have non-citizen voting. It's illegal for non-citizens to vote already. That's already been a thing. What this ends up being is now every single person has to prove their citizenship.
Dude. The non-citizen voting thing, I think it's 77 cases in 24 years. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yeah, but Phil, in my head, there are trans Cubans who have come here to steal our jobs and welfare, okay? And they are voting for Kamala Harris, and that's why we need to stop this. No, there's a lot of tied in this. I made a video about it the other day, specifically around the passport side of things, because if a passport becomes the only acceptable form of ID, then you end up in a situation where whoever controls the White House can then choose who their voters are. Because you can suddenly start to have issues in this. The big thing with this is you have to go take a look at the plight and struggle of Black Americans in the South, especially through Jim Crow and especially through the Civil Rights Act, to understand exactly why this is all a terrible idea and why Republicans would want to do it. Because it's a way to control who gets to vote. It's a way to control and pick who your voters are, so that way you can then pick who the next leaders will be. And in fact, we even had Kristi Noem over the weekend saying that ICE is Department of Homeland Security and ICE are part of voting, because they have to make sure that the right people are voting for the right leaders. Like, that is language that's being chosen on purpose. And a big part with this is they don't care if they throw out a bunch of Republican voters because they think they can throw out more Democrats. They don't care. And they're like, I made a video again. I'm just going to, because I saw a bunch of comments on my video. People being like, I was like, if you're a registered Democrat, they'll just turn your passport off right before election day or whatever. There'll be an issue with it. Oh, because this is just how my brain works. Is why would I want to have passports be a control mechanism? Well, because Marco Rubio controls all passports. and you can turn it off for whatever reason, or you can label them as lost. You can go say there's an issue with them or whatever. Okay, that's the first check. Okay, so then I said then they'll turn off anybody who's registered as Democrat. Then people go, oh, that's simple. Then I'll register as a Republican. I'm like, okay, but the system is tied into things like Palantir. The system's going to be tied into stuff like the stolen Doge data. They'll know where your brain has been. If you haven't been wearing a red hat the entire time, or if you didn't convert in a timely manner to being MAGA, then there's like easily a way that this could happen. Now, am I saying this is 100% what's going to happen? No, but you are opening it up to a world where this could. And if you look at the history of every democracy in the history of the world, once you allow the government, specifically the people in power, to start choosing who the voters are, you end up in a terrible situation. And this has not been a problem. They're making up a problem to get mad about.
And part of the reason I feel like they think they have the cover is, like, if you've seen polling, 83% of U.S. adults support photo ID, right? But it really simplifies the situation across the board because, I mean, yes, there are the concerns like you were talking about, especially then you get into like the nitty gritty of like, well, passports and IDs and every part of the process should be free, right? If all of a sudden we're going to, make these things mandatory. But I think this is a lose-lose situation no matter what way it goes. The first is if this does go through, my bigger concern is with mail-in voting, which not universally, especially as like Trump, even though he villainizes it but has embraced it, mail-in voting is still more heavily Dem. And this bill would prohibit universal mail voting. It requires all male voters to submit an application in order to receive a mail ballot. So how many people is that going to impact? And also, I want to look through some of the key stats here. 21.3 million voting age Americans lack ready access to proof of citizenship documents. 52% of registered voters do not have an unexpired passport with their current legal name. 11% don't have access to their birth certificate. 69 million women change their names after marriage. Birth certificates won't match current ID. I actually have this problem because my name used to be Philip Franchina. I changed it years and years ago. Once again, the 77 non-citizen voting cases in 24 years. There are situations where Utah audited its entire voter roll, 2 million plus people. They found 1 confirmed non-citizen registration and 0 non-citizen votes. This is a made-up situation. But even if it doesn't go through, you know what's going to happen? The midterms are going to happen. And he's like, we tried to stop the fraud, people.
Yep.
We tried to stop the fraud, but they wouldn't let us. And now we got to do whatever the fuck.
Now we got to do 50 January 6s. It's crazy, folks. It's crazy. 50 wild times on January 6th. We got to do it everywhere. It's wild. And don't worry, $87 billion. And we got all these facilities to make sure that we put all the voters in them. No, I mean, one of the things that you look at is in Minnesota specifically, and we'll talk a little bit about the supposed ICE DHS drawdown in Minnesota. Initially, one of the things they demanded was give us the voter rolls. They want to be able to compare and contrast and put all of these documents together. This is the feds coming in to try to control state voting. Trump this weekend, he said that he can bypass Congress and demand IDs. The thing is that gets me is in a lot of these things, before this became a federal thing under Trump and underneath the Republicans, you've had this happen in state to state, right? And one of the things, the issue has been around poll tax and going back to exactly what happened with black voters throughout the South. They learned over 100 years when black people got the vote through the civil rights era, they had things like poll taxes, they had grandfather clauses, they had all these different things. And as the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act got rolled back by this Supreme Court, you've been seeing those same tactics come back. There was a while there where it was easier to vote in the South than it was for me to vote in Pennsylvania. So mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania were a very difficult thing to get until 2020. That was a thing that became easier up here. We don't have early voting in that sort of way. We've started to have it, but again, it's done through mail-in ballots in this really odd way because the Republicans have been holding back on it. We've had some issues here in Pennsylvania around that, and that's been at a state level. The Republicans here have demanded IDs. One of the reasons why they've been pushing back on that is because where are the driver's license centers? So again, you're now instead of being able to go to a polling place, you now have to go to a DMV first to go get an ID of some sort. So it's a state issue ID. Do you include a state issue ID? Are student IDs from a college acceptable? What is the proof? And then we've moved from you need to prove that you are Phil DeFranco when you go to your polling place to you need to prove that Phil DeFranco can vote. That's where we moved from. That's where this conversation, I don't think where people are noticing what's happened here. We've gone from, I need to prove that John Smith is standing in front of me filling out this ballot, to, is John Smith an American? Should John Smith be even allowed to be in this building? Should John Smith be allowed to question this vote? That's where we're getting stuck in. And it's a huge shift in the goalpost. It's a huge shift in the Overton window. It's the huge shift in the entire conversation, because we're moving from an area where we are no longer discussing the legitimacy of the government, but we're now questioning the legitimacy of every voter.
Yeah, and I mean, every time someone registers, right, all these like don't tread on me people, they're just making a bigger and bigger file on you. It's like I don't understand how these same people just run along with it. And I mean, once again, I think part of the thing here is it seems simplistic until you look at the different levels here. I mean, I think there's even a thing about for election officials, if they allow certain things to happen, they're facing prison time.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing is, like, people don't realize that our federal elections are run the same as our local elections and our state elections. They're run by little old ladies sitting behind a folding table in a high school gym or a church or other municipal buildings. Like, it's just a series of people, in Pennsylvania at least, it's a series of people who are not getting paid well to be yelled at for days on end because they want to make sure that we actually believe that our government represents us. And instead, you're having a series of people come in and, again, question all of that. And they're asking the questions in a way to make the entire process look illegitimate. So then we'll all step away and then not want to deal with this. That's the reason why this conversation over the weekend about who would you vote for in 2028 just drove me so fucking crazy. Because I'm like, I don't know if we are even going to get to that point, because of how lunatic, like we have to look at this year, and we haven't even gotten through this primary set yet. Like, wait, we haven't even had a primary hit for 2026. So when these primaries start to hit and you get to, you're going to have people already questioning primary votes, because in places like Pennsylvania, we have a closed primary system. A lot of people don't even understand this. Some states have open primaries, which means you can go in, you can vote against a Republican in the Republican race, or you can vote for the Democrat. I have a closed one. You have to be a registered Democrat. So if an independent shows up and they say, I want to vote in the Pennsylvania gubernatorial primary, I don't like Josh Shapiro, I'm going to vote for somebody else, right? If they want to come in and do that and they show up and they're independent, they're going to be like, well, we don't have a ballot for you. And in Pennsylvania, you have to be registered 10 or 14 days in advance. We don't have same day voter registration here. And so they'll go on, they'll complain online. Well, somebody living in a state that has same day voter registration that has an open primary will say, well, that's not right. And then boom, the entire system gets blown up. And this then gets held up by the same lunatic accounts that are being propped up by guys like Steve Bannon, Peter Thiel, and everybody else in the fucking Epstein Files.
I'll get you right back to the podcast in just a minute, but first, let me thank a sponsor and say, if your winter vibe is Mystery Slush Roulette, congratulations, your socks have been living in a horror movie. But for me, that's why I reached for today's sponsor, Vessi, specifically their Stormburst sneakers. They're built for stormy commutes, muddy trails, and those I'll just run one quick errand lies. Right in the headline feature, 100% waterproof Dymatex knit, so rain, slush, spills, your feet stay dry without the bulky rain boot energy. And because it's not spray-on coating, the waterproofing is designed to last while still staying breathable. In Stormburst, they come in low top and high top, so you can pick your level of ankle protection. And comfort details matter, removable insoles and supportive heels, so you're not doing that ow walk by 2 p.m. Also gotta add, the traction's legit, right? Rugged grip for wet sidewalks, icy parking lots, and your neighbor's aggressively slippery driveway. Also, bonus quality of life stuff, pull tabs so you're in and out fast, like a dad escaping a quick Target run. And they're made with eco-conscious materials because dry feet shouldn't come with a side of guilt. Plus, Vessi backs them with a 1-year warranty and 30-day hassle-free returns. So don't let slush be your boss. Go to vessi.com/crash or scan that QR code and get 15% off your first pair. Future you will thank you every time it rains. Yeah, and Alex, coming back, I know that I kind of touched on the whole thing with the SAVE Act. If it passes, right, I feel like every time someone's registering, it becomes kind of just this document collection service. And I think part of the reason that's on my mind is we covered this on the show, but we're learning things from the New York Times that over the last few months, DHS has been quietly subpoenaing names, emails, phone numbers, other personal data with platforms Google, Reddit, Discord, Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. And they're essentially trying to get information on people that said anti-ICE things online or were like, hey, ICE things are happening here. Discord, that even goes further into the Palantir
Discord,
concerns,
yeah,
like
the
facial
Discord
recognition and IDs.
Yeah, and face scanning to use Discord and all these other different things. Yeah, there's a big thing with this, which is, when we first started the show, there was I wanted to put it in the notes the one day, and then I kind of forgot about it a while ago. There was a Wired article a while ago about how DHS and specifically ICE, they have like a task force to just scan social media and just make notations of public profiles and accounts. Like there was a long time ago where when I was younger, I get like real paranoid about like I was on a Yahoo news group and I said that George Bush was stupid for invading Iraq, and I think Black Hawk helicopters are flying over my home. Like that was me in like 2004 because I was partying a little too hard and I was posting at 2 a.m. But now I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm not on a list. Like there's just no way.
No way.
The good news is like the list is being looked over by Kash Patel, so it's not like he can focus on any one name. But the downside of it though is I think more and more people, for the first time in America, I think I want to say the entire population actually feels like if you say the wrong thing that it is being notated somewhere.
You should 100% think that.
No, I know.
Every conversation you have,
but
even no matter you're like taking like steps.
But what I'm saying though is this is
seeing
the first time in America in a very long time that the entire population believes that. This has been true for specific population groups inside of America, people who believe certain things, whether or not you're a Muslim after 9/11, whether or not, if you go back just through the history of civil rights, or you look at the women's liberation movement or any of these different things, politically, if you're too far on the left, whatever it was, you would have that assumption. But now there's an assumption that anything you can say can be pulled up. In fact, actually going back into this whole thing with Pam Bondi and the 50K Dow moment and her going through the list, they were spying on Congress people who were looking through the unredacted Epstein files, right? And they had it in the binder. She accidentally opened the binder in a way that a photographer took a picture of and saw that a specific congressperson was searching, had specific search terms that they used because they wanted to see the unlisted documents. And then on top of the other side, there have been reports that have been out there that members of the GOP tied to the Trump administration went to Republican and MAGA influencers and told them, if you keep going against us about Epstein, we will turn the DOJ on you. All right? Like, there's a reason why I'm going to keep bringing up Marjorie Trader Brown, but I want to keep bringing that up because there is no safety in being on their side. There is no safety in that side of things. Like, people think, oh, I'm one of the good ones, I'm going to be safe. There is none because you just have to step one toe out of line and then boom, because they're collecting on everybody. And I think that's a thing that everybody needs to keep in mind. And years ago, this would have sounded like a paranoid thing. But now it's not paranoia. We're literally quoting this directly, almost directly, from the investor meetings that they're having for places like Palantir, and directly from GOP and Project 2025.
Yeah, and this is like, it's very much, it seems to be bleeding into kind of the normie verse, right? Just regular, everyday people. I think we first kind of saw, regarding this specific area, I think we started seeing a lot of pushback because of that Super Bowl commercial with Ring.
Yes.
Right? Where it was like with their relationship with Flock and, hey, look, our security cameras are going to find dogs and definitely not be Big Brother and just on a whole different level. And even with this Discord stuff, you're seeing people, it's obviously very focused on a community, but I was looking up key stats here. Discord alternatives as a term spiked 10,000% overnight. You had people canceling their Nitro subscriptions. You had people talking about, I hadn't heard this since I was playing games 20 plus years ago. People talking about TeamSpeak.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember TeamSpeak.
Yeah.
I remember TeamSpeak. You were going to TeamSpeak.
I think I follow TeamSpeak somewhere on social media, and every now and then they pop up like, hey, just to remind you guys, we're not rich because we didn't turn evil. Like, there's like a weird little thing. And I don't know if that's true. They could be evil. Who knows?
Sometimes it's just being inept, right? Like, Skype is a good example. It's like, how'd Skype lose to fucking Zoom? I don't understand.
I know how it did. They got bought by Microsoft, and then Bill Gates took it down to the island and said, wait, all right. Hey, come on now. No, but there's been a thing of like, there's the paranoia that is growing. And you were talking about the normieverse. It's coming in harder and harder for people. There was an image that came out of Minnesota of a woman in her bathrobe, standing there with other people, like holding up her phone to film this moment. There's images I've been seeing of coming out of Northeast Philadelphia of just like what I would like, just regular people from the neighborhood just screaming at ICE agents and just pushing back against this. Like, there is a level now of, I think everyone is slowly starting to come to this realization that this is no longer an esoteric thing. This is not, this is beyond an idea. This is beyond a dystopian fantasy that this will show up, if not at your front door, at least in your neighborhood. And what does that look like, and where does this come to?
Yeah, and I mean, I understand some of the initial ideas for why they would want to, like, non-evil ideas for why they would want to verify age as ways to navigate systems. But even if you think that they're not evil, you have to worry that they are not secure enough. I mean, even Discord, I was like, why is it in my head that something happened? I had to double check. In September of 2025, you had hackers compromising Discord's third-party support vendor, and they accessed 70,000 users' government IDs, selfies, and personal information, right? And that's once again, I just assume that there are going to be breaches everywhere. And and all these places are like, oh, so we verify it, and then it goes, poof, it disappears. But then we see stories where they're like, so the Ring camera that shouldn't have had video recorded anywhere, we were able to magically find the video.
Yeah, you're talking about Guthrie's mom. Yeah, that was the Nest Cam. Because listen, we have Ring cameras here, and like we went back and forth about whether or not to have the subscription to be able to access them and all this other different shit forever. But we now in a situation where you think that, oh, because I'm not paying for it, it's not being saved. And no, everything is being saved. There's a reason we're building data centers everywhere.
You're paying to get access to it as well.
Yes, that's what you're paying for. Like that's what the extra payment is for with all this different stuff. And so when people are seeing that mixed in with the flock camera dog commercial from the Super Bowl weekend, other things, like people are rightfully getting more hesitant about these things, but also just more. I mean, again, it's that paranoia. We're all in a situation now where you can go down the street and be followed, and you have to just be under the assumption that everything you do, you're under being watched, right? Yeah. Like you just have to be. Like for me, it's easier because I hold up my phone and I yell in it. I'm like, of course my phone fucking knows where I am. But we do podcasting and we do stuff online, so we've been under this assumption for decades now because of how we're constantly doing things. Like when people are like, "Oh, I'm not going to upload an ID to, let's say, to use TikTok or to use Discord or one of those things." I already have. I'm monetized. I had to fill out a fucking W-9. I had to give them all of my fucking tax ID and do all this other different shit to be able to use this different stuff. So when people are saying, I'm like, yeah, well, it's fucking a little late for me, but on top of that, it's one of those ones where I don't think a normal person should have to. And when we talk about things like the Kids Online Safety Act and other things like these you have a government that's telling us, think of the children. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. Y'all think about children too much. Like at the same exact time, we're not prosecuting anyone inside the Epstein Files while still claiming these other things. We're not going after any sort of regulation around Roblox, right? How many times, how many fucking Roblox stories do I need to hear? Like I'm in parents groups. We talk about it around here all the time. The second a parent goes, oh yeah, my kid loves Roblox. Literally every group chat goes, ooh. Like that's just the thing, because we're all like, there doesn't feel like there's any moderation over there. And then when we're looking at all these different things, I mean, a lot of what we're looking for is just basic moderation, or if these companies should have to take out insurance because, somebody goes and uses it to groom a kid. Because if this was a mall, right? Just think about it. If this was a physical location, if Roblox was something like a mall, if Discord was something like a town square or things like that, at a certain point, there is some overarching governing body that is supposed to make sure that it is safe in some sort of way. And so I know that there's a big part with Section 230 and all this other different stuff and discussions there, but like, this seems to be a weird area that nobody can seem to agree on what this looks at and what this looks like. They start talking about digital IDs. They start talking about face scans. I mean, shit, in the UK, you have to scan your face before you get to watch porn now. Like, what are we talking about? Like, it just seems like there seems to be so many ideas but no solutions, but the ideas still get tacked on. And I don't know why. Yeah, I mean, actually, with you bring up the UK, I do want to transition to something that's bugged the shit out of me. And I think we may have talked about it on the podcast, but it does feel like in the UK and overseas, that is largely one of the only places that we're seeing some sort of accountability
with anything Epstein related. We are seeing certain things in the United States, but even that, it's like just in the business space. If you're Lutnick, if you're Trump, you're fine, apparently.
Lutnick
it's fine.
lied in front of Congress like so many times about being involved with Epstein. But yeah, no, exactly. You're 100% right.
But then you have things like, what was it? Casey Wasserman was like one of the big things, right? Emailed Ghislaine Maxwell back in 2003. He was like very infatuated. He's stepping down and like selling his talent agency. But I guess because it's politically connected, he's still like Olympics chair.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and so it's just, but it's weird. Then you look at like Peter Mandelson in the UK. It seems like there's accountability. You have like criminal charges and investigation is like the talk.
Tom Pritzker just stepped down from the Hyatt. You know, that's like you have him stepping down from over at Hyatt. You've had a few other people stepping back and stepping down. There was that Sultan.
Didn't Virginia Giuffre testify though that he sexually abused her?
Listen, there's been 1,200 accusers, and there have been testimony, and there's been all these other different things that have happened without having this general pushback. Because again, all of these guys can hide behind money. All these guys can slow walk all of this different stuff, and they can bury it inside of the news. That's been kind of where this big part of it has been. We've had how many monsters have we heard about doing things who then went on to still do, concerts and stuff like that when it comes to this type of stuff.
When I accidentally cut you off there, when you were talking about, what was it, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem.
Yes.
He's the one that had the I loved the torture video email.
Yeah.
Fucking insane.
Yeah. No, I mean, like Steve Bannon is still running around after doing everything he can to not only rectify Epstein's the view of Epstein in the world before he mysteriously died, quote unquote, and also everything else. Like Steve Bannon's still getting invited to things. People are still sitting with that man. When we look at all these different people who are connected in it, you're going to see at this point the people who are stepping back, the people who are Elon Musk's brother Kimball. He got kicked off of, I think, the Burning Man board. Like you're seeing this. A lot of this is just PR. A lot of this is public relations for them to be like, oh, we don't want the company to be affected by this. We don't want the bottom line.
Right.
You're still a billionaire. You're still a millionaire. You can still go down to St. Bart's. You can still go hang out, one island over. You can still have a yacht. You can still do all these different things. It's the same thing that gets me. Like, this is like another version of, unfortunately, this is going to turn into another, like, unless we see the files turn into trials, this is Me Too too. Which is a lot of people getting a slap on the wrist or not being able to do daytime television for a couple years, that level of stuff. Or a lot of them are going to pivot and come back and claim that they found Jesus, or they become religious, or they're going to go into an area where we don't notice them as much, into a smaller niche circle that doesn't notice these things. Like that's where a lot of if no one is going to be prosecuted for it, then there's no crime, unfortunately. And this feels very much like 2008. There's a huge explosion.
And I agree with people like with Kana saying, like, I don't know if you saw like the politically exposed persons list. It's like they just tried to pad as many names in it as possible.
They put Elvis Presley on there.
I was Janis Joplin. It's like they're trying to. I think it's like a more exaggerated, and I would argue possibly nefarious thing, where it's like people were kind of like mentioning if they showed up in emails and making light of it. I think it is important that, one, I'm not going to like villainize anyone from going like, oh my God, like they talked about me or some shit like that. But I think it is important to go like, there are levels to this. We've talked about this several times, where it's like some people just got mentioned. Other people kept in contact and didn't give a shit seemingly about the victims. And then people also seem to have possibly engaged in a lot of fucking horrific shit.
Well, I mean, you have that, and then you have, as this has been going on, again, because it's a cover-up, you have having more and more people start to realize, like, going through the files themselves, changing .pdf to .mp4, and then discovering that they're videos. Like, people have been finding, like, actual horrific things inside of these files because they have to actually know how to analyze them and go through them. You have people like Dr. Peter Attia, who has said, I'm suffering from Jeffrey Epstein withdrawal at one point. He's still working for CBS. Anderson Cooper's walking away, but that's a different thing because it's more of a Barry Weiss situation. But we have there are layers to it. And the thing is like, they are going to try to paint everyone with by they. I just want to let me go do my pronouns on this one. By they, I mean the Trump administration, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the other ones involved in the cover-up are trying to paint everyone with an Epstein brush that is in the files to say that they're all on that level. So then other people who are in there will then want to move on from this story. And that's really what this is. And the part that's crazy, actually, I think the craziest part about this cover-up is that this has been Trump's worst cover-up of his entire political career, because this story will not go away. It will not vanish because they keep desperately trying to move on and desperately trying to hide things, which is just slow walking it and making it worse, which means every single day there's another new wrinkle. One thing my wife and I have been talking about a lot is, and I've been seeing this from a lot of women online, is how many millennial women especially are looking back and realizing that 2000s, especially if they were young women, the 2000s fashions that were run by Les Wexner, who was one of Epstein's primary finance people, who owned Victoria's Secret, Limited 2, and a bunch of other organizations that dealt with young women's fashion. All of that was designed by pedophiles. All of that was being controlled by people who were doing horrific things to young women. And all of that had an implication further in our culture. And I know many women who are either they're coming. There's like three ways that this is happening. This is a realization for the first time. They had an inkling that they now have had proven true, or they knew it was true the entire time and they feel gaslit by the entire world, acting like they're learning this for the first time. And so there are so many women that are coming to this, and I know that we're two 40-year-old white guys who are talking about this, but I just want to say this to our audience of like, please keep that in mind when you're talking to him, because I've seen the fact that many of them have been dealing with the fact that our culture was being groomed, and that's fucking insane. And like, this is one of the aspects that has come out from these files, and a big part of this, again, is if there had been actual trials, we wouldn't have this loose. This wouldn't just be an info dump in this way. We talked about this in a prior episode about the psychological damage it's doing, because now you're seeing it spread out further and further and further into the culture, where like over the weekend, like Michael Jordan got accused because there was a video of him shaking the ice out of a kid's shirt.
Was it definitely ice? I don't know. I was like looking at it and I was like, that's fucking weird.
It was a weird thing, but
I don't know what's going on.
They dumped basically Gatorade on a kid. So the kid's wet. And so the shirt's stuck to the back of the kid's back.
I hadn't looked into it.
I know. When I first saw it, I went, "That's fucking crazy! Why the fuck would you do that?" And it was all NBA. It was also NBA All-Star Weekend, which had a huge its own other.
Well, I was like, because I had seen all the LeBron stuff, and then the MJ thing. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like having whiplash.
No, but again, this gets into the weird, like the weird thing about algorithms and going back to like stuff like the Nicki Minaj style stuff with the barbs and things. You have LeBron fans who are like trying to get the story off of LeBron. So then, well, here's a video of Michael Jordan doing something kind of weird that some psychopath clipped and posted out of context. Oh, okay, let's boost that, and then people won't say that Michael Jordan is better than LeBron, and then LeBron can. This is what we are now. We're all having psyop cunts aimed at our brains via algorithm all day, and you just have to, at the end of the day, kind of just make a decision of where your morality lies and what you actually fucking care about.
I was like, it's I guess it's semi-connected to that, but I do sometimes wonder if everything that's happening with the Epstein Files is warping the way that I think of or see a number of things. Because I think I've talked about it on other videos, but when I was a kid, my dad very much trained me to think like any man who is like even like kind of like nice to a child that is not theirs is like instantly suspect, creeper. And then like, I don't know. And then when I was like playing with my young boys and their friends and like goofing off, and I'm like, oh, this is normal. But then now, because of everything with Epstein, I feel like it's like flipping back where I'm just like, okay, gotta be like fucking scared of everyone and creeped out by everyone.
But part of that is part of the 80s satanic panic and stranger danger bullshit, when we know, again, statistically, we know that it's usually somebody that is known in the family, right? Like usually it's more.
Sure.
So like so I had a moment last week where I was with my wife and we went to an event, and they have a children's play area. And so I'm sitting with my wife inside the children's play area with our toddler. He's 2, so he's running around picking up random things and being like, dinosaur, like, okay, cool. And this other child is there. And there's a bunch of kids there. But this one little boy, he liked me, and he started talking to me. And he kept holding up things, and he'd be like this. I'd be like, purple elephant. He'd be like, yay, and then put stuff down. And I'm looking around. I'm like, where's this kid's parent? Like, I don't want to be like having a conversation with a random 3-year-old and then have somebody come in because, again, we're in this like world. And then I started looking around, and I realized in that moment that I was the only dad there. And like that made me really sad because it was like all moms. And then I'm like, is that now here's the part where you get into, all right, it's the time of day. And like, I have a non-traditional job now. So like, is this because of the time of day and that the dads are at work and the moms have part-time or they were expected to stay home with the kids? Is this because the dads don't feel comfortable in these situations? Is this because of all these other different things? Is this part of gender norm? Is this all this different type of stuff? But I started like thinking back and like just trying to think of other times in my life of just like, being present and being in those things. And then on top of everything is by the time we got it, somebody walked up to me and was like, oh, that's my kid. I love your videos. And I was like, fuck, okay, damn it. All right. This is one of those things where I'm just not allowed to be outside. But that's just how.
No, but I think that it is a thing that pops up where it's like when you have Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, that there is like, you constantly hear like there's a need for more big brothers, like more male mentors for kids that might not have like that figure. And so, yeah, it gets into
Which is why you end up with Clavicular.
Oh, you were so happy you got to bring it back to this fucking psychopath.
Yeah, well, no, because it's fucking insane. It's just real fast. You just had your amazing interview with Adam Friedland, who had just interviewed.
Yeah,
Clavicular.
he was great.
Yeah, it was a great interview actually. And Adam actually said a thing that I've been thinking about, but I hadn't like gotten into the right context yet, which is a big thing with this new generation of young men that are coming out there, and it really put the entire Clavicular thing into context for me, which is when he was 13, the entire world got locked down. When Clavicular Clavicular is 20 years old now, right? I don't know his real name. I don't care to. I'm just waiting to read the obituary at this point. But when it comes to, listen, I've seen how these stories go, all right? We all see how these stories go. You can't use that much meth and smash your face in with a hammer and not think you're going to have a long life. Anyway, when I was...
Do you think it's that? He's not going to be frame mugged to death?
I don't think he's going to be frame mugged. I think it's going to be, listen, Peter Thiel... And just keep Clavicular. If you understand full sentences, stay away from balconies. Okay, so when Clavicular and this group of kids are between the ages of 18 and even 20, when they were 12, 13, 14 years old, the world got locked down and they were handed a phone. They were handed an iPad. They then went into looking at streamers. They started trying to find community in Discord servers. They went to go have their experiences that we had in high school where you and I would have going outside, going to events, whether their sports stopped. I mean, at the beginning of the lockdown, at one point, they were like shutting down playgrounds and shit. There were public parks in some areas were closed because we didn't know what was going on with the virus. We didn't know what was happening with COVID. And the idea of distancing, we just wanted to shut things down to try to figure out what the hell was going on so we could start reopening things, right? Well, when that happened to them, you have a series of teenagers who just didn't have the world quite explained to them, and they're sitting there watching their phone. They watch a man get murdered for 8.5 minutes. They watch everybody go to the streets. They watch, a police state try to come into effect. They watch the government almost topple. And then everything starts getting worse from there with inflation and everything else. And the whole time, the only consistent and constant for them is the internet. And it is these streamers. And it is the Discord servers and all these different things where they're assuming they're talking to people their own age. And they don't know. They look at the incel community. You don't know if the incel person you're talking to is 45 years old or if it's 10. There's so many times where I'll be online and I'll see somebody who's mad at me and I look at their profile and I'm like, you're 14 years old. Why the fuck are you looking at my profile? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have no way of knowing at the end of the day. You have some analytics to have a general idea of who's looking at you and who's interacting with your content. But like, I can't tell you how often for my other podcast, Too Many Tabs, we get messages from parents who are like, yeah, I listen to this in the car with my kids. And I'm like, oh, don't do that. I don't know. But like, the show isn't designed for them. And looking at somebody like Clavicular over time, I'm not excusing his actions, but some of the crazy shit he did, once I realized, oh, you didn't have a genuine early high school, I go, oh, this is the penis game. Remember? Do you remember that? When you're in people are going to be like, that's a weird out of context. Yeah, louder and louder and louder. Oh, whisper, penis.
I think these guys play the same game. They just use the N-word.
Yes, 100%. And that's what I'm saying, though. It's the same fucking thing. And they're trying to get a rise from people out in public. Because if they just yell penis, it doesn't work. And so now they're going to try this thing. And then you see them, like with this guy in particular, I think he doesn't even, like, I don't even want to say what he thinks. I think that with Kick and all these things, they're getting more and more extreme because they're competing with each other for a more and more extreme fan base that is chasing more and more extreme things. And this is how you end up with them, which is why you see them going in the direction of Nick Fuentes, why Andrew Tate keeps showing back up, why all these other different people keep showing back up. Because if you're in the area where you've been banned from every other platform, you end up over here in the extremist platform. Well, you were known over on all these other platforms being the most extreme man on Twitch, the most extreme man on YouTube. How are you going to be the most extreme one on Kick, right? How are you going to know it's an extreme person on Rumble? Well, you start putting on sheets. And before you know it, you're Kanye West printing stuff in the Wall Street Journal apologizing to the entire Jewish community.
Yeah, with Clavicular, I've heard a number of different arguments. There is the potential play of a bunch of people's brains got warped and refocused during the pandemic. There's also a conversation around how much is he playing a character of just like, you find a differentiator. I don't know how more different you could be than I hit myself in the face with a hammer to make micro fractures in my jaw. But I think then also, like, connected to that, it's like he is a very attractive person, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that naturally draws people in, and they go, okay, well, is it something? And he's also coming up, and he's part of the reason that there's a rise, but he's also connected to it and taking advantage of it. Like, I feel like in the male space, there's been more and more conversation around bettering yourself, not just through working out, but like people. I hear the most fucking random people I never thought I'd have this conversation with talking to me or asking me about peptide stacks, right? They're like, what do you know about these Chinese peptides and this and that? And so it's like, in a way, he's like connected to how people started talking about Bitcoin early on, where people are like, I saw this guy and he was talking about these things. And so he's like connected. He happens to be part of the rise. And then also because of him, there is a rise of this like personal betterment in the young male community.
So yeah,
and I see a lot of it is toxic though.
Yeah, well, the thing is again, this is one of those things.
How about wait? Let me sorry, I'm going to cut you off one more time. I'm not going to use the word toxic because people will be like, oh, toxic masculinity. Genuinely dangerous.
Okay. There we go. That's a good one. No, but I think there's a thing this is a thing that happened actually in the philosophy community. The philosophy community, like I've talked about it on a few different things about how, especially on the right, they colonize certain subcultures. Like they come in and they really make it into a way that it becomes an on-ramp. So I look at, for women, it's been very heavy in the gossip space. We did an episode about it on Too Many Tabs about how Candace Owens and others will use specific topics over on that side. And then, they start by talking about who was Ryan Reynolds and what's her name? Who's Ryan Reynolds' wife? I can't remember. I'm blanking because I'm old. Blake Lively.
Oh my God.
There we go.
Thank you.
Blake Lively. So they'll talk about, she'll talk about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively or Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, right? And then so you tune in to watch 10 minutes of that. And then the next 10 minutes are about how, actually, there's a white genocide or whatever. Like that's like how there's like this turn that slowly happens that they know, and they know how to onboard on. In the philosophy community, that happened a lot because there was a lot of people like, listen, my mom's a Latin teacher. I grew up reading stuff like Plato and Aristotle and all these other different things. I've always been interested in those things. I had a classical education about them, but that has kind of gone away. And so when you go look at YouTube and stuff like that, let me go tune in. These guys are talking about classical philosophers. Who is this? It's Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro. Fuck. Okay, you know what? I want to go work out. Let me go look over on this side. Who can we go work out with? I don't know, Andrew Tate and Clavicular. Like, you get into these spaces where these guys end up getting higher and higher and higher in them. So it turns to the point where, like, it's almost getting, in some circles, it gets felt like if you're at a certain level of working out, you have to be right wing because that way it's the way to fit in. Same with like MMA circles, right? So in MMA circles, it's very right wing coded now because of that's just been an area they've colonized over years with forums. And so when I look at this thing in particular, and by thing I mean this looksmaxing bullshit, it is what's crazy to me is the thing that's really become true and really become clear to me. It's pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling. I'm dead fucking serious. And the more people can see it and the more people understand it, the more they can process it. We're talking about, in the case of all of these guys, especially the IRL streamers, they have clippers. They have monetized clippers who are working together or against each other, who are building narratives, who are taking things and then creating it. The reason everybody heard about Clavicular over the last few weeks has been, for me, this is my journey with it. Jarvis Johnson made a video about how Clavicular could not stop saying the N-word. And I go, what the fuck does this say? And so I click on it for a minute. That then put Clavicular into the search engine optimization and into my algorithms. So then I started seeing him in a few places here and there. So he was maybe in like 1% of everything that I'm scrolling past. And then that stupid fucking tweet about Clavicular got frame mogged while jester gooning to the ASU frat leader. That goes everywhere. And then suddenly it's the new Baby Gronk went on a date with Livy Dunn. It's that same, it's gobbledygook garbage that people then start sending to each other going, do you know what the fuck this is talking about? And then that opens up your algorithm to just suddenly it's all you can fucking see. And inside of all of this, there's then timing of things of people saying that Peter Thiel is interested. He suddenly gets arrested. Suddenly he's released and all the charges are dropped. Suddenly he's getting a New York Times article written about him. Suddenly he's showing up at Fashion Week. And you're like, all right. But he's also been working at this for 4 years. So there's like, So basically what I want to say is Clavicular is a psyop. And so that.
Yeah, no, I'm there's part of me that's like, maybe all of us, I'm going to include us, maybe all men, especially podcasters and streamers. Maybe we need to be banned for a week and everyone's
hashtag all men.
All men.
All men.
But no, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I'm loving our podcast and I'm loving the rise and I'm very excited to see where it continues going. But, you know, I also think at the same time, did we need another podcast with two dudes? I was like,
yes.
I think
we needed
I
this
don't
one.
Listen.
I needed this.
No,
I
we needed this one.
I needed
But
this.
I was like, but I find myself naturally gravitating towards things like it's people are gonna make fun of me if they made it to the end of the video. I'm a big fan of the Giggly Squad. I was like, that podcast. Oh,
I don't even know what that is.
Alex,
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, there's so much lore. I don't. Apparently, they were on a like reality show. I don't even watch that. I'm like, that's you working. I don't want to know what you do for a job. They're just two funny women, good vibes. Do I agree with everything? No, but I don't fuck it. It's not that deep. I'm like, that's what I need. I need more lightheartedness.
I have never heard of this before in my life. I don't even know who these people are. I just pulled them up. I have no idea.
Oh no!
You shocked
I'm forever
me.
thankful for Lindsay bringing them into my life.
Well, can
It's
I tell
good.
you honestly?
She also brought me a different podcast that I'm not going to name because I don't want to shit talk some randoms. But
Yeah. Well, no,
she was one for two.
No, listen. There's a thing that I will say. If you want to know how to not get pulled in by an incel alt-right pipeline, it's just talk to like two women. Just talk to two women as they're people. That's maybe my advice for everybody is like, just talk to women like they're people. How was your weekend? Cool. Are you listening to anything cool? Oh, nice. Oh, I should give it a listen. Hey, I listened to that thing. That was good. That's it. That's it. Instead, like everyone's in here, like everyone thinks that we're in some RPG. I got to look max. Okay, I can get +2 on my PSL rating if I smash my. I don't.
Hey man.
I think people.
Okay, here you're gonna make me fucking be the pro in a world where young kids not only got fucked up by the pandemic, but seemingly have a 99% likelihood to never own a fucking home, to have to compete with AI for basic and mid-level jobs. They're like, what can I control?
Okay.
What can I control?
You want a
in my
stronger?
life?
Can I tell you? You want a stronger jawline? Live to be 30 and grow a beard. All right, there you go. All right, you guys don't even want to know what's underneath this thing. That's number one. Number two,
like the tiniest shit.
Yeah, listen. Anytime I've ever shaved it off, everyone's been like, "Ugh," like that's because I have a dimple in the middle of my chin, and everyone's like, I have a very dimpled chin, and it's good. It looks good, but it's just not. It's not the same. But
it's a different person.
It's a totally different person. It's scary. And also, if you have a beard for long enough, whenever you shave, everyone looks at you and go, "You look like a naked worm now." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. But what I was going to say before I was so rudely cut off by Phil, which is, no, there are ways to better yourself that are healthy. Like, yes, eating right. Working out is good. Working out is good. It also isn't the only thing. It's like, what are you working out for? You know, like wanting to live
To
longer.
fight fascists.
There you go. That's a good one, right? That is a good one. But it's also, what else are you doing it for? For me, it would be because I want to look good when I look naked, right? I want to look in the mirror and go, oh, okay. Yeah, I'd do me. That's a good one. That'd be a good reason to do it. I don't need to do it because, I need to make sure my PSL rating so that way I don't get frame mogged while I'm jester gooning. Like, yeah, shut the fuck up. You sound like a D&D character that got lost in an AI script.
Yeah, I'm all for the betterment as long as it's not. I feel like the clavicular dude has talked about also been talked about the detrimental things that's happening to his body because of what he's doing.
I don't know. I see clips of him. I've rarely ever heard him talk, and then people say that he's doing what he's not doing in the video. Like it's one of these things where
that's a huge problem right now.
It's a huge problem on everything. But they'll say one thing up top and then another thing in the actual video you watch. Everything gets taken out of context. Context collapse is king. Maybe that's what the episode should be called. We are context collapse. Well, Phil, let me just end this with one last piece of advice for all of the listeners and viewers out there. I want to make sure that they're maxing, okay? I want to make sure that they're jester subscribing, okay? Make sure that you get down there and you make sure our PSL rating is 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on all the different places that you are enjoying this podcast, because we need to frame mog all the other podcasts out there. We need to make sure that they understand exactly where they are. They are beta cooks underneath the Crashing Out podcast. So make sure that you like, subscribe, you share, you tell your friends, you have all those different fun things. And go ahead, you know what, honestly, clip us out of context. Clip us completely out of context and throw us out into the algorithm out there. Make us so insanely toxic that people can't stop talking about us. So that way we can keep this thing growing and we keep going and we keep coming back to you guys every Wednesday at noon on YouTube or earlier in the day wherever you get your other pods. Phil, you got any piece of advice for anybody?
Just thank you for watching. I love your faces. Stay safe. Stay angry.